And our guest speaker tonight, I think if I tried hard, I could likely spend 20 minutes on the introduction. I'm not going to do that. He's likely known to most of you here. I know he's known to a lot of our guys in drug court. He's a gentleman that's been coming to this church since he cleaned up, so it's a little over 3 years now. He's a gentleman that's moved forward with his life. The transformations are happening, and he's teaching now other men in particular in recovery how to be good dads, how to be nurturing parents, and how to maybe get their children and whatnot back in their lives. Speaking of children, of course, he's not shy on that end of things. I think he said he had 17 children himself. I'm not sure, he might clarify that himself. So he has some idea, he has some experience when it comes to that. Anyway, without any further ado, I'd like to invite Eddie up here to share your experience, strength, and hope. Eddie.
Hi, I'm Ed, recovering addict. Grateful for this opportunity. So, my story is as honest as I can be, and it's pretty honest. Starts in '67 when I was born. I was born in a Roman Catholic family, very, very Roman Catholic family in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I'm the eldest of all my siblings. So life for the first 10 years was pretty great. Coming up in March of my 10th birthday, I also had a sibling brother. His name was James. We were 11 months apart. I was born March 18th. He was born April 18th. Having said that, at that time we didn't understand because he had a heart disease with a hole in his heart and his valves were backwards. So I'm just learning now. Back then he had 33 open heart surgeries till the time he was 3 years of age and didn't expect to make it. So progressing the story forward to when I was almost 10 years of age, on March 15th of 1977, we were learning our way home in Victoria, following my father's car from school so that we'd learn our way home. 3 dogs came out, startled my brother, and his heart stopped. My dad vigorously tried to give him CPR. I was standing there wondering what was going on. My brother passed. March 15th was 3 days before my birthday. My parents didn't want to bury my brother on my birthday, so we prolonged the funeral and moved back to Winnipeg and had it a week later. That's when my addiction started. Blame myself because I didn't scare the dogs away to protect my brother. So I'm 51 years of age now. And for 40 years I lived in addiction, blaming myself, in and out of jail. I didn't start to try to get treatment until about 2002. And remand became my treatment because I was a revolving door, 12 months, 14 months, 18 months. Having said that, I never did treatment. And in recovery, it said you got to do treatment. So I was always looking for the easier, softer way. Having said that, it obviously wasn't working, right? Or I wouldn't be sitting here today trying to tell you my story. So we'll take it back to about 2012 when I got out of the penitentiary and stayed clean for the first time in my life without treatment while I was on parole. It was easy to do because we were tested all the time. Nobody wanted to go back to jail. Having said that, you don't really look at the ramifications about staying clean, about the people you decide to share your life with. So me being the smart ass, not wanting to go to work, faking it on paper, still became a dealer. It was easy to be a dealer, put it on paper. I was a manager for houses, renovation houses, blah, blah, blah. Full the parole system. Just had to stay clean, right? So it didn't matter what you were doing while you were staying clean as long as you were clean. Well, I learned very hard. The week my parole was up, bam, back into addiction. So having said all this, I wasn't looking at all my life. Blame being a little boy scared in a man's body, not being honest with himself. I had previous other children with other women. Wasn't looking at all the hurt, all not being there for my children. One of my daughters decided to come and find me, to say, hey, asshole, Here I am, what about me? The reality of looking at her and trying to be honest was really hurtful, because how can you be a man unless you can own your own shit? You can't. So we started building a bond then. I ended up back in jail again with my Father's Day baby, Megan. I broke a solid promise because I was just starting to get united back with my children. I was to be in BC for her birthday, which fell on Father's Day on June 21st. And June 20th, what happened? Asshole went back to jail. So looking at my life, this became on and on and on. In another direction of my life, there was always wanting to be the acceptance, because my father also blamed himself for my brother's death. So here you have two men in the house, a young child, a full-grown man that was a Roman Catholic Church. He was an ordained deacon of the Roman Catholic Church and fell into alcoholism. I'm an addict, he's an alcoholic. Wasn't mixing too well in the house when he was totally against drugs, but alcohol was okay, right? Yeah. My name was Edward, his name was Edward, so I was his namesake. So I was a stubborn little mule too. So in another direction to catch up, while I'm trying to reunite with my children and not accepting all the hurt and all the absences of not being there in their life, trying to, like an addict, find a reason, an excuse to post blame on somebody else rather than taking the blame on my part. So I would direct it at their mothers or what have you. Some of my daughters and my sons would accept that, but it was only accepted for a short bit of time, because everybody asks questions, everybody has family, just like a child. When you're sitting and you're supposed to be in your room sleeping, you always hear the adults talking. You remember things. So they remembered things. So questions were asked. And that was with the hurtful time. So once again, I went back to jail the day before Megan's birthday. We lost contact. It wasn't we lost contact. That young lady had enough of her dad's bullshit. You know, can't blame her. I tried to blame her while I was in jail, but you really honestly can't blame her. I'm going to speed things up more to 2016, when I started learning about open hearts and surgery, because another friend of mine's child was born the same way, but they were able to correct the problem. What I didn't know all through my life, or didn't pay attention to learn, was that back in the 60s, they didn't have the medicine and the doctoring as they do now. So taking blame and being that young man growing up, the little boy that was scared growing up in this man's body, I always blamed myself. So March was always the hardest time of the year for me. 2016, my dad became ill with cancer. What is it? I forget. It's not lupus. Shakiness, or whatever it is. Parkinson's. And we always butted heads for so many years because we were so much alike and living in the life of crime. We didn't very seldom talk. We didn't hate each other. We just couldn't stand to be in the same room with each other. For my dad with me, it was because I was always bullshitting. Up until 2016, before he passed, we started making amends and not blaming. We never blamed each other for my brother's death. We blamed ourselves. But having said that, we come from a very proud family. We're Scotch, we're bullheaded. We started overlooking all those issues because Dad was sick, and he wasn't looking for sympathy at all. He was just trying to let me know this was the lifestyle he never wished for me. Having said that, I found out why I was in BC for his funeral. Come March 1st was my first clean day. It was the day that I gave a blood oath. In my family, a blood oath is very, very serious, because you harm your family tree if you can't keep your word. So I gave my blood oath that I would never do drugs again. I'd never be that junkie. I'd never be that crackhead again. at the same time as I'm promising my father over his grave in front of my family, I found out that a woman I was with in addiction was pregnant. I didn't want a child born of addiction, so the struggle was real. I came back to Calgary, 2016, went home. There was Amanda, out cold in bed, almost dying of an overdose. We revived her, got her well. I was furious because we didn't believe she was pregnant, so my daughters got involved and gave her that pee testing, and they were a little forceful about it because they didn't want a brother or a sister born of addiction either. So Amanda had to pee 3 times, 3 different tests, and it came back positive each time. So we decided to be our own detox. She was just going to be stuck in a room. That didn't work. My house, while I was gone, got raided. My oldest son, Aaron, moved in and wanted to be like me, a drug dealer, a tough guy, a bad guy. House got kicked in. We all went to jail. One of my best friends, which was my son's godfather, it was a domino effect. Bobby went to jail. Luke went to jail. Now Ed's in jail, all within 1 week. So I was adamant that I was going to have a child born of addiction. So this was about April 28th when all this went down. I'm inside remand. Me and Luke are in the same cell. And we're just banging heads going, what the fuck, bro? How did all this happen? So must have been a sign from God, but we weren't looking at it. It was a sign from God. We were looking at every other excuse rather than owning our shit. I only had a month's sobriety, just over a month. And he's like, how you doing it, bro? I honestly couldn't tell you how I was doing it. I just knew that last time in jail was the last time I wanted to be in jail. CFS came to see me because my son was born May 16th, 4 months premature, with a heroin addiction. When they first came to see me in Calgary, man, they told me my son was apprehended at birth because his mom committed suicide trying to kill him. I was livid. I was ashamed. I was trying to find family to help my son or be there for my son. Almost impossible, because why are they going to be there for him if I can't be there? My past going in and out of jail showed that I was an irresponsible person. But in my head, my responsibility was finding proper women that were stable, that weren't drug addicts that I had children with. For that, I'm really grateful because I got so many beautiful children that don't do what I done. But they couldn't step up either. They're being out of province. Second time CFS came, they told me he's going to go for a 2-year PGO, then open adoption. Me being evil Eddie and the bad guy that I've been around was like, fuck you, you're dead. Pardon me. I'm like, you're dead. This is still only a few months in sobriety while I was in remand. So it really doesn't count being in jail, being sober, because it's not treatment. You're not dealing with the steps. You're not dealing with anything. But to me, it felt justified. So the next visit was with Calgary Police and CFS when they came to remand. I said, this is what's going on. I said, like hell. So TKO is part of a program in Calgary Remand, Treatment, Knowledge, and Opportunity. And it's like penitentiaries now where they have drug units where you get piss tested, you're corrected on your language, your behavior. It's a matter of change, just like recovery is. But it's an early pre-stage to simplify things and make it easier and softer. Well, we got down to drug free through TKO, me and Luke and Nick and a few of us. And we all swore we weren't going to be those guys anymore. I fought, even got spring orders, what they call a spring order, to go to court on behalf of my son. And the judge was looking at me going, who here is opposing CFS getting custody? And then he'd look over in the box and there's a guy dressed in blue. You, what are you doing here? I'm his father. Yeah, so how are you going to raise a son? How are you going to provide for this child while you're in that box. And I was looking at him going, this is a bum rap. And he was like, do you know how many times in my courtroom I hear that this is a bum rap? So fast rewinding a little bit, it was a bum rap. I got charged for a B&E in possession of stolen property on my own place. Really, the warrant was out for over a year, right? So now we're fast forwarding, and I'm telling the judge I'm going to be out August 10th. That's trial, and I'm not thinking August 10th is Prison Justice Day either, right? And this is in a small town in Didsbury, Alberta. So, anyways, week after week, month after month. So I see the judge 3 months later, again from custody, and he's looking at me. He's like, just shaking his head, like, here's this schmuck. We look at him. He's 50 years old. In and out of the penitentiary for the last 40 years almost. Just a burden on society. What is they call it the director for CFS. What are you opposed to doing? And they're like, well, he says he's going to be out. And he's like, yeah, I heard that one before, right? And I was just choked. Nothing burned my ass more, but hearing that, I was like, yeah, it ain't happening. August 10th, it was an easy withdrawal from the Crown. They take me to Didsbury. The judge is like, your own place. I had all the paperwork, everything there. It was not even a trial. It was thrown out. I was released, stuck in Didsbury. Now, to get back to Calgary, to get to remand, to get all my belongings, I'm walking out of the courthouse. I'm going to the gas stations to ask for a phone to use. RCMP are there. We don't want assholes like you in our town, right? So keep moving or you're getting charged, right? I end up hitchhiking. I just got outside of Didsbury. I'm trying to hitchhike, and they rolled up and said, do you know it's illegal to hitchhike in Canada? And I'm looking at them going, you fucking can't be for real. Right? They get moving, get walking, you got a long way, right? And there's a sheriff's van driving right by me. Honk, honk. I'm thinking, you dirty. So I walk, I get to Calgary remand. They let me in. I'm sitting at the front doors. They take me through the back through A&D real quick to grab my bag, sign, say, hey, it's count time. You want to go back to the TKO unit, say goodbye to everybody? I'm like, no, I want out. So I go to my first CFS meeting, which was within the first 3 days after being released. And it's right there in black and white. For anybody that's been involved with CFS or NFS, they have a plan. Before I can see my son and start being involved with my son, they want a plan, but their plan is addiction. He was born of addiction. I got 40 years of addiction in black and white, in and out of jail, all over addiction, period, end of story. What am I going to do to show that I'm going to be that father, that's, parent that's going to step up? And I'm looking at him going, okay, I'll go to treatment. They're like, yeah, when? So me being the smart guy, I think I know everything. I enroll at CUPS. I enroll with E-Fry. I enroll with John Howard. Everybody to start the same day as I start my treatment. How smart is that? Didn't think about all that stuff, right? So I had to make a choice right then and there. I did my treatment. I went to Sunrise treatment. For you that are newcomers and anything coming into here, I got to say, you got to humble yourself and go to treatment if you really want to get sober, whether it's addiction or alcoholism or both. You really got to do treatment, because for 40 years I neglected treatment. Jail's not treatment. Jail's just a stopper for the moment. For the addict and the alcoholic, it's an excuse for the moment, I find for myself. I did treatment at Sunrise. I got out and started doing my parenting courses. I took them all 3 times. There's not a parenting course I haven't taken. I started volunteering here at this church, the CA meetings downstairs in the room right after church, chairing there, and started focusing my direction on more parenting, other things to do what I could do. I'm the first male in Canada in over 10 years to but to win my son in under a year. That's because of the work I did, because of this church being here, the people in this church. because of Cups, and Cups is a very passionate staff. I can't see any better. Just like this church, they're unjudgmental. They don't swear like me, but they're there, and they're there to guide you in any way. I have my son James, who's usually here with me, but today he's got a virus. Last weekend he got to spend time with family and grandma before she went back. I'm truly grateful for the people in this room. Shannon, Pete, you too, Paul. You very well, Karen, Brad, and so on and so forth. Luke, Nick. We're like the Brat Pack. Me, Luke, and Nick. We used to be called the Hood Rats from Forest Lawn. Now we're the Brat Pack. My nickname used to be Evil Eddie. Now with me co-parenting or co-facilitating at Cups, they call me Eddie the Teddy. It's funny sometimes, but sometimes my pride and my ego wants to get in the way. March 1st of this year, I take 3 years. Having said that, and all this as well, being honest like I am here telling my story, I had to be honest with my children about my addiction, which they already knew. They're not stupid. But now we're a family. My kids are very much involved with their little brother, his family. You know what I mean? That, to me, that's everything. Resentments was being that slow, lazy guy, always laying blame. But today I can't blame nobody for shit. Now, today, the struggle is really real. Because sometimes, don't think about getting high. But the moment I surrender and get high, it's the moment I lose that little guy. And I'll tell you, nothing's going to get in the way of that little guy. Thank you very much for listening to my story. My name's